Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. You don't lose a Sigma woman. You just realize she was never orbiting you to begin with. Men don't lose interest in Sigma females. They simply fall out of a league they never quite understood. Here's the truth. According to recent psychological studies, most romantic connections rely not on compatibility, but on codependency patterns. That's bad news for anyone trying to tether a Sigma. She's not interested in playing emotional ping-pong with your insecurities. She doesn't chase. She doesn't cling. She won't beg you to stay while holding the door open for herself. And that, dear viewer, is where the unraveling begins. At first, she's intoxicating, a storm wrapped in serenity, the woman who can disappear mid-text thread and still haunt your mind like a memory you didn't earn. But slowly, silently, your grip slips, your relevance fades. Not because she's cruel, but because she was never performing girlfriend auditions in the first place. She is the glitch in the dating matrix, the boss level most never reach. And when they do, they rage quit the game. So, why do men lose interest in Sigma females? Or better yet, why can't they hold her interest long enough to matter? Let's break it down. Number 1, men discover they're a side quest, not the main plot. Men lose interest in Sigma females because they eventually realize they're not the main plot. They're just a side quest. At first it feels thrilling. The Sigma woman is magnetic, mysterious, and completely self-contained. She doesn't orbit around anyone, not emotionally, not socially, and definitely not romantically. She has her own direction, her own goals, and her own inner world that doesn't shift just because a man enters the picture. And that's exactly where the problem begins. A lot of men are used to being the center of someone's emotional universe. They expect their presence to change a woman's rhythm, to slow her down, to distract her, to make her pivot toward them. But with a Sigma, none of that happens. Her focus remains exactly where it was before he showed up. She doesn't pause her goals. She doesn't rearrange her schedule. She doesn't make him her new mission. She simply continues living, with or without him. And that's where the disconnect hits. In the beginning, he thinks she's just hard to get, or independent in a cute way. But over time, it dawns on him. She's not trying to be won over. She's not waiting to be chosen. She's already chosen herself. She's writing her own story. And he's not the main character. At best, he's a guest appearance, maybe a plot twist, but never the plot. That realization stings. Not because she's mean or dismissive, but because she doesn't need him to validate her existence. And for many men, that's disorienting. They lose interest not because she lacks value, but because she refuses to place their value above her own. Her detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the calm of someone who knows she's not incomplete just because someone walked away. And for men who expect to be the center of gravity, that's a role they just don't know how to play. So they bow out, quietly, confused, and a little bruised. Number 2, she's not emotionally bankable. Men lose interest in Sigma females because they quickly realize she's not emotionally bankable. She doesn't offer the kind of emotional credit system most men are used to. She won't coddle your ego, won't play emotional cheerleader, and definitely won't hand out praise just because you showed up. She's emotionally self-sufficient, and that changes the entire dynamic. For a lot of men, relationships are transactional in ways they don't even realize. They give affection or attention and expect reassurance, admiration, or emotional nurturing in return. With a Sigma, that exchange doesn't happen the way they expect. And it rattles them. She's not cold. She just doesn't hand out validation like candy. If a man is insecure, he won't find comfort in her the way he would in someone who's wired to soothe. She won't soften the truth to protect feelings. She won't fake enthusiasm to make him feel manlier. She won't inflate his self-worth just to keep peace. That emotional high some men chase, where a woman makes them feel like a king for doing the bare minimum, doesn't exist with her. She gives respect where it's earned, not where it's demanded. That's a sharp contrast to what many men are used to. Instead of pouring herself into someone else's emotional bucket, she keeps her energy intact. She knows how to sit in her own peace, and she expects whoever she's with to bring their own stability too. So when a man starts leaning on her for emotional reassurance, trying to test her responses or provoke attention, he finds nothing to grab onto. No drama, no emotional chaos. No buttons to push, just silence or indifference. And to some that feels like rejection, but it's not. It's just boundaries with a backbone. Over time, that lack of emotional catering makes them feel unseen or unimportant, when really they're just not being babied. And for men used to being emotionally pampered by women, that hits differently. They don't know how to handle it. So instead of leveling up, they opt out. And they call it losing interest, when really they just couldn't get the emotional ROI they were secretly banking on. Number 3. Her mystery doesn't invite, it exposes. Men lose interest in Sigma females because her mystery doesn't seduce, it exposes. At first, the mystery is part of the attraction. She's not oversharing on the first date, she's not broadcasting her every thought, and she's not trying to impress anyone. That kind of restraint draws men in. They think there's something to figure out, a puzzle to solve. But here's the twist. Her mystery isn't a game. It's a mirror. And most men aren't ready for what they see in it. When a man tries to get close to a Sigma woman, he expects the usual script. He thinks if he digs a little, flatters a bit, and plays the right moves, she'll slowly open up and become more emotionally accessible. But she doesn't perform that way. She doesn't reveal herself on demand, and she doesn't reward effort just for the sake of it. Her silence, her calm, and her distance aren't tactics. They're just her being herself. And suddenly, instead of feeling intrigued, he starts feeling uncertain. That's when things start to shift. Because when she doesn't validate him the way he's used to, when she doesn't give predictable emotional cues, he's left alone with his own reflection. His confidence starts to feel shaky. He begins to question himself. Am I interesting enough, smart enough, good enough? Her presence doesn't confirm his value, it challenges it. And that's the part he wasn't expecting. The truth is, Sigma females don't feed into anyone's illusion. They don't play along with a version of you that you wish was real. So when a man tries to use her mystery as a ladder to boost his ego, it backfires. Her mystery doesn't say, come closer. It says, are you ready for clarity? And most men aren't. They wanted a riddle, not a reckoning. So they call her distant, too guarded, hard to read. But deep down, it wasn't her mystery that pushed them away. It was how clearly it made them see themselves, and what they weren't ready to confront. Number 4, he can't map her because she's not trying to be found. Men lose interest in Sigma females because they can't map her, because she's not leaving clues, playing games, or trying to be found in the first place. A lot of men are wired to follow emotional patterns. They're used to women dropping subtle hints, sending mixed signals, or leaving behind little breadcrumbs for them to follow. It gives them a sense of control, a feeling that they're progressing in the right direction. But with a Sigma woman, there's no trail to follow. There's just her, moving at her own pace in her own direction, with no interest in being tracked. She doesn't give you half answers to keep you guessing. She doesn't act distant just to reel you back in. If she's quiet, she's genuinely occupied. If she doesn't text back, she's not playing hard to get. She's just not focused on you. That kind of emotional clarity is rare, and for a lot of men it's disorienting. They try to read between the lines only to realize there are no lines at all. There's nothing cryptic about her. She's just not interested in putting on a performance. And that's where the frustration begins. A man who's used to chasing suddenly finds there's nothing to chase. There's no emotional loop, no drama, no predictable reaction. He can't figure her out because she's not leaving gaps to be filled or layers to be unraveled. She is who she is, and she's not trying to be understood or decoded like some kind of romantic puzzle. The more he tries to apply old strategies, push-pull, provoke-react, retreat-return, the more invisible he becomes to her. She's not confused. She's not testing him. She's just uninterested in emotional theatrics. And because she doesn't respond to those patterns, his usual methods collapse. The game doesn't work. The script fails. And when there's no map to follow, no chase to feed his ego, and no emotional confusion to sink into, he bows out. Not because she's too complex, but because she refused to shrink herself into something he could control. Number 5. She doesn't offer the male redemption arc. Men lose interest in Sigma females because she doesn't offer the male redemption arc. Whether they realize it or not, a lot of men come into relationships secretly hoping a woman will fix something in them, heal their pain, rewrite their past, or give them a sense of purpose they haven't built for themselves. They want to feel saved without having to do the saving. With most women, this dynamic can go unnoticed for a while. But with a Sigma, that unspoken expectation dies fast, because she doesn't play emotional rehab for half-formed identities. She doesn't look at a man and see a project. She's not interested in potential. She doesn't see emotional brokenness and think, I can love that into wholeness. She doesn't want to be the reason he finally gets his life together. She expects him to have already started that journey on his own, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but with some damn self-awareness and discipline. If a man shows up with chaos in his hands, she's not going to grab it and start organizing it for him. And that's a blow to the ego. Because a lot of men are drawn to the idea of a woman who will believe in them when they don't even believe in themselves yet. They want someone who will be patient with their inconsistency, who will see past their emotional unavailability, who will stick around until they're ready. The Sigma woman has no interest in waiting around for readiness. If you're not aligned with her now, she won't pause her life, hoping you get there later. She doesn't want to be a man's motivation. She wants to be his match, and when a man realizes she won't hand him a crown he hasn't earned, the fantasy starts to crumble. He wanted redemption without reflection, a shortcut to confidence, a love story where she carries his weight until he figures out how to stand. But she's not signing up for that. She's walking with someone who's already standing tall, because she's spent too long standing on her own. Number 6. He's attracted to her power until he realizes he has none over her. Men lose interest in Sigma females because while her power pulls them in at first, it quickly becomes a threat once they realize they have none over her. In the beginning, her independence is magnetic. She's confident, mysterious, grounded, all the traits that signal value and depth. She doesn't chase, she doesn't perform, and she doesn't need external validation. That level of self-possession is rare, and it draws men in like a flame. But the same qualities that attract them are often the ones that quietly dismantle their sense of control. Many men are used to a certain emotional leverage in relationships. They rely on charm, attention, or subtle pressure to influence how a woman behaves, to win her over, to keep her interested, to feel a sense of power in the dynamic. But none of that works on a Sigma. She can't be manipulated through attention games because she doesn't crave it. She can't be guilted into opening up because she sets her own pace. She can't be swayed with flattery because she already knows her worth. That emotional immunity catches them off guard. At first, they try harder. More effort, more charisma, more tactics. But when none of it gives them the reaction they expect, their confidence starts to erode. Not because she's doing anything cruel or calculated, but because her calm is unshakable. She doesn't rise to bait. She doesn't flinch at distance. She doesn't shift her values just to keep someone close. For a man who's used to having even a sliver of control in relationships, this kind of resistance feels like rejection. The truth is, her emotional detachment isn't a wall. It's just that she can't be moved by superficial power plays. That kind of self-control creates a power imbalance, one where she isn't pulling away, but he's falling out of alignment. And when he sees he has no emotional leverage, no way to steer her behavior, no ability to shake her core, he loses interest. Not because she lacks something, but because he does, and her power only made that impossible to ignore. Number 7. She's not confused about what she wants, and that's terrifying. Men lose interest in Sigma females because she's not confused about what she wants, and that kind of clarity is terrifying to someone who is. Most people, whether they admit it or not, operate in a state of emotional fog. They half know what they want, half hope someone else will figure it out for them. This uncertainty becomes the foundation of many relationships. People bond over mixed signals, almost feelings, and undefined situations. It feels safe because nobody has to fully commit, fully confront themselves, or fully show up. But the Sigma woman doesn't play in that gray area. She's not unsure. She's not waiting for someone to give her direction. She knows who she is, what she stands for, what she wants, and what she absolutely will not tolerate. That kind of sharpness cuts through the emotional fog most men are used to. It doesn't leave room for vagueness, passivity, or emotional half-stepping, and that's where the panic sets in. When a man is still figuring himself out, his identity, his direction, his emotional capacity, being with someone who's already aligned becomes overwhelming. She won't chase. She won't decode mixed signals. She won't lower her standards to make him feel more comfortable. Her presence demands emotional precision, and most men simply aren't equipped for that level of truth. It's easier to be with someone who mirrors their uncertainty, someone who'll go back and forth with them, who'll make excuses for their inconsistency, who'll accept "I don't know" as an answer to everything. The Sigma doesn't do that. If he doesn't know what he wants, she'll walk. If he's unclear about who he is, she won't try to shape him. She's not looking to build a man, she's looking to meet one. That clarity doesn't just intimidate, it exposes. It forces him to see how scattered, unsure, or emotionally unprepared he actually is. And instead of rising to meet her level, many men retreat. Not because she's too much, but because her certainty makes their confusion impossible to ignore. Number 8. He thought she was playing chess. Turns out she's playing a solo game. Men lose interest in Sigma females because they approach her like a game to be solved, only to realize there's no game at all, just her, living without a script. In the beginning, her calm detachment, her silence, and her independence feel like strategy. They think she's playing chess, deliberate, calculated, testing responses, so they start analyzing her every move, trying to decode the logic behind her behavior. Is she pulling back to see how I'll respond? Is she waiting for me to chase? Is this all part of some long game? But here's the kicker. She's not playing anything. She's just existing. She's not trying to provoke curiosity. She simply doesn't perform. She's not being distant to create tension. She's just not interested in constant emotional back and forth. There's no playbook, no bait, no manipulation. And for a man who thrives on trying to win attention or decode behavior, that reality lands like a slap. What he thought was a strategy to unravel turns out to be a complete lack of interest in playing at all. This is where the disconnect happens. He thought she was sending signals when really she was just being honest. He thought he could earn access with the right moves, but there are no moves to make. She's not building a romantic maze. She's walking her path, alone if necessary. And that's not a game. That's a paradigm he wasn't ready for. The problem is, most men feel powerful when they believe they're figuring her out. It feeds the ego. It gives them something to chase, something to crack. But with a Sigma, there's nothing to crack. No hidden motive, no master plan, no emotional trap doors. She's not playing coy. She's just uninterested in performance-based intimacy. And when he realizes there's no competition, no scoreboard, and no reward waiting at the end of his emotional effort, his ego short-circuits. The mystery doesn't deepen, it dissolves. And without a game to win, he walks away. Not because she lost value, but because she never needed to be conquered in the first place. Number 9. She's not on the market, even when she's single. Men lose interest in Sigma females because she's not on the market, even when she's single. She doesn't date because she's looking for validation or attention. She's not out there swiping, texting, or checking off relationship milestones like a to-do list. For her, being single isn't a status to be changed. It's just a part of her life that doesn't need fixing. She's not waiting for someone to fill a gap, and she's not performing emotional availability just to keep the dating game interesting. This creates a huge disconnect for men who expect some kind of reward for their effort. In most relationships, men are used to the cycle. Show interest, get attention, pursue, win validation. The woman reacts, gets attached, and the dynamic builds toward a relationship where the goal is clear. But with a Sigma woman, the rules are different. There's no reward for chasing, no end goal where the prize is her affection. She's not offering her attention like a currency that needs to be earned. For many men, this removes the familiar game. They start reaching out, giving attention, trying to spark her interest, only to find that it doesn't result in the usual payoff. She's not responding out of desperation for love, and she's not going to bend her life to fit someone else's timeline. She doesn't need a man to feel complete, and that's often where they hit a wall. They're used to relationships being about winning someone's approval, but she's simply not playing along. She's already secure in who she is, and her value doesn't come from anyone else's perspective. Her lack of eagerness to please, her refusal to be on the market like a product to be bought, creates a frustrating dynamic for men. It forces them to face a hard truth. She doesn't need their validation, and she doesn't need to be chosen. For a man accustomed to the chase, this is a huge letdown, and eventually, that lack of reward leads to a quiet withdrawal. It's not that she's unappealing, it's just that she's never really been available in the way they thought she was. Number 10. He gets tired of her not needing his approval, or anyone's. Men lose interest in Sigma females because her self-assurance isn't just an act, it's built into her foundation. She doesn't need anyone's approval to feel valid or worthy. She doesn't seek reassurance, doesn't fish for compliments, and doesn't look to anyone for permission to live her life. This quiet confidence can be unsettling for many men, especially those who are used to being the source of a woman's emotional security. When a man sees that his attention or validation doesn't shift her mood or decisions, it triggers an uncomfortable feeling of irrelevance. For many men, being needed is an essential part of their identity in relationships. It's often tied to feeling valuable or important, being the one someone leans on for strength, advice, or emotional grounding. But with a Sigma woman, that dynamic doesn't exist. She's independent in a way that doesn't leave room for dependency, and this can make men feel unnecessary. They want to be the ones who offer comfort, the ones who provide stability, the ones who make her smile on a rough day, but she doesn't rely on them for any of that. She's already whole. At first, this can be empowering. A man might admire her strength, thinking he's attracted to her ability to stand on her own 2 feet, but over time, the weight of that independence can feel isolating. It forces him to confront the fact that she doesn't need him in the way that many men are used to being needed. His ego might take a hit when he realizes that no matter how much effort he puts in, she won't change for him. She doesn't bend her life or her choices to please anyone. And that's where frustration sets in. He wants to feel like he's adding value, like he's an integral part of her world. But the truth is, he isn't. Her self-assurance doesn't require external validation, and eventually that leaves him feeling like a bystander in her life. It's not that she's cold or indifferent. It's just that she doesn't need his approval to keep moving forward. And for many men, that's a tough pill to swallow. Number 11. He tries to trigger her insecurity and finds none. Men lose interest in Sigma females because they try to trigger her insecurities, only to find out there are none to exploit. Many men, whether consciously or not, use tactics like jealousy, fear, or competition as a way to test emotional boundaries, to stir some kind of reaction or vulnerability. They want to see if they can make her feel threatened, unsure, or desperate for their attention. It's a way of feeling powerful, of knowing that they can manipulate someone's emotions. But when they try this with a Sigma woman, they hit a wall. There's no emotional chaos to provoke, no vulnerability to exploit, no crack in her self-image to widen. The truth is, she has no unclaimed insecurities. She's already done the work of facing herself, confronting her flaws, her fears, and her past. She's been through the fire of self-reflection and emerged unscathed. If she has weaknesses, she owns them, and they don't define her or make her seek validation from others. This level of self-awareness doesn't just disarm manipulative games, it makes them irrelevant. When a man tries to play these emotional games, he might see a lack of reaction that feels like indifference or coldness. But it's not that she doesn't care, it's that she doesn't need his drama to define her. She doesn't need him to validate her worth. His attempt to make her feel insecure only exposes his own need to control the narrative, and when she doesn't react, he's left holding his own agenda with nothing to latch onto. Eventually, this frustrates him. He's used to the back and forth of emotional push-pull, where he can exert influence and gain a reaction. But with a Sigma, there's no reaction to provoke. She isn't playing the emotional game, and that's a game changer. She's not interested in the emotional theatrics or the need for reassurance. When a man realizes there's nothing to manipulate, no insecurity to trigger, he often retreats. Not because she isn't worth pursuing, but because he can't control the narrative like he's used to. Number 12. He's not used to love without codependency. Men lose interest in Sigma females because they're not used to love that's clean, fierce, and unpossessive. For many men, love comes with strings attached, expectations, constant validation, and emotional enmeshment. They're used to relationships where the lines blur, where the intensity of emotions can feel like the fuel that keeps things alive, even if it means chaos, confusion, or dependency. But a Sigma woman doesn't need to be constantly validated, emotionally tethered, or consumed by a dramatic connection to feel loved. Her love isn't about merging with someone else's identity. It's about respecting both her independence and her partner's autonomy. This kind of love is hard for many men to grasp. They may confuse her groundedness with emotional distance, her self-sufficiency with detachment. She doesn't need constant reassurance that she's loved, and she doesn't need her partner to define her sense of worth. To a man used to the roller coaster ride of neediness, clinginess, and emotional highs and lows, this steadiness can feel unnerving. Her love is not a chaotic, turbulent wave to ride. It's a steady current that demands no constant paddling to stay afloat. Sigma women don't emotionally entangle themselves in unhealthy patterns. They're not seeking validation through their partner's dependency or emotional drama. Instead, they bring a calm, fierce love that exists without the constant pull for attention or approval. The emotional space they create in relationships is vast and free, but to someone addicted to the drama of codependency, it can feel like a void, empty and unfulfilling, like something is missing. They start to question if she really cares, if she's truly invested, when in reality her love is simply different. It's independent, strong, and without the need for constant validation. And when a man realizes that her love doesn't require his emotional crutches, he often retreats, not because she's not offering enough, but because he's not sure how to navigate a love that's both freeing and unburdened. For those addicted to intensity, the calm can be perceived as detachment, and they walk away, unable to comprehend a love that is whole and unclaimed by codependency. In the end, the Sigma female is a force of nature, steady, fierce, and unapologetically herself. She doesn't conform to the typical rules of relationships, and that's what makes her both captivating and intimidating. Her independence, her self-assurance, her clarity, these are the very qualities that men either gravitate towards or run from. For some, the allure of a woman who needs nothing but herself is magnetic, yet for others, it becomes a mirror to their own insecurities and unfulfilled desires. The truth is, Sigma women aren't here to be decoded, saved, or manipulated. They're not playing games. They are simply living in their own truth and unapologetically carving out their space in the world. If a man can't align with that, if he can't handle the idea of loving someone who doesn't need to be fixed or validated, he'll inevitably step back. But for the right person, the Sigma woman's love is a rare gift. It's clean, powerful, and unwavering. It's not bound by games or dependency. It's grounded in mutual respect and the freedom to be who you are, without apologies. So while many might retreat, intimidated or frustrated by her unshakable sense of self, the ones who understand will find a love that's stronger, purer, and far more rewarding than anything they've experienced before. The Sigma woman doesn't need anyone to define her. She defines herself. And those who can appreciate that strength will know that the real prize was never the chase, but the opportunity to walk alongside her, fiercely independent and wonderfully whole. If you're ready to stop playing the same old games and embrace a love that's real, raw, and free from the chaos, it's time to step up. The Sigma woman isn't waiting around for validation, approval, or someone to fix her. She's already whole, already thriving. If you can meet her at her level, grounded, independent, and fiercely authentic, then the connection will be something extraordinary. But if you're still caught up in emotional games and codependency, it's time to rethink your approach. True love isn't about winning or controlling. It's about respect, alignment, and meeting someone who knows exactly who they are. Are you ready to rise to that challenge?